This is the international news on Atlantic Television Network. First, the headlines. South Africa, cattle ship causing foul smell departs for Iraq. Yemen, crew abandons British registered ship after missile attack by Houthis. India, protesting farmers resume march on capital after talks failed. Russia, woman with U.S.-Russia citizenship detained for alleged treason. United States, 2 men charged with murder for shooting at Kansas City. Australia, police say taekwondo instructor kills 7-year-old student. And now the news in details. A Kenyan magistrate Tuesday ordered the main suspect in a doomsday starvation cult and 94 of his followers to receive emergency care after some of the suspects had to be carried into the courtroom to answer manslaughter charges, too frail and weak to even open their eyes after an apparent hunger strike at the law courts in the coastal town of Mombasa. Chief Magistrate Alex Ithuku directed Paul Mackenzie, his wife Rhoda Mawil, and others charged with 238 counts of manslaughter to be escorted to hospital for an immediate doctor's examination. The visibly emaciated suspects pleaded not guilty on all counts, which were read out over 4.5 hours. Doomsday Court leader Paul Mackenzie and some of his followers have been blamed for the deaths of 429 members of his Good News International Church, many of whom are believed to have starved themselves in the belief that by doing so they would meet Jesus Christ before the world ends. This took place between January 2021 and September 2023 at Shakahola area in Malindi sub-county within Kilifi County, according to prosecutors. Ithuku, who visited the suspects in the basement cells of the court, said afterwards that he observed some could barely stand or open their eyes, so he was calling for them to be treated immediately. Earlier this month, Mackenzie and 94 of his followers were charged with murdering 191 children, of whom only 11 have been identified, according to the prosecution charge sheet. The bodies were discovered in dozens of shallow graves on an 800-acre ranch in a remote area known as Shakahola Forest in the coastal county of Kilifi. The graves were found after police rescued 15 emaciated church members who told investigators that Mackenzie had allegedly instructed them to fast to death before the world ends. 4 of the 15 died after they were taken to a hospital. Autopsies and some of the bodies found in the graves show they died from starvation, strangulation or suffocation. Kenya's chief government pathologist Dr. Johansen Odro said last week the government will resume the search for and recovery of more bodies from the Shakahola forest from March. The exercise had been halted so that autopsies and DNA analysis could be done on the 429 bodies already recovered, Odro said. Zimbabwe began an emergency campaign to inoculate more than 4 million children against polio on Tuesday after health authorities detected 3 cases caused by the rare mutation of the weakened virus used in oral vaccines, including a 10-year-old girl who was paralyzed in January. The health ministry said laboratory tests from samples collected from sewage sites in several areas of the capital, Harare, late last year showed the presence of a mutated poliovirus that originated in an oral vaccine used in the global eradication effort. In rare instances, the live poliovirus in vaccines can mutate into a form capable of sparking new outbreaks, especially in places with poor sanitation and low vaccination levels. The number of polio cases globally has dropped by more than 99% since the global efforts to wipe out the disease, led by the World Health Organization and others, began in 1988. But the majority of children being paralyzed by polio these days are being crippled by a virus that was originally linked to a vaccine. Vaccination teams in Zimbabwe are moving from house to house to deliver more doses to protect children, while others will be stationed at health facilities, authorities said. Officials said it was the first time Zimbabwe would be using a new oral polio vaccine specifically designed to reduce the risk of the virus within it mutating into a dangerous form. Zimbabwe aims to roll out more than 10 million new vaccine doses, targeting just over 4 million children below the age of 10 into 2 rounds in February and March. More than 95% of the population needs to be immunized against polio to stop new outbreaks. Last year, the wild polio virus caused a dozen cases in Afghanistan and Pakistan, the only countries that still have that virus. In comparison, polio viruses linked to the vaccine caused more than 500 cases in nearly 24 countries globally, mostly in Africa. A cattle ship blamed for causing a foul smell engulfing Cape Town has departed for Iraq, an animal welfare group has confirmed. The Al Kuwait ship docked in the city's harbor from Brazil on Sunday to load feed for its cargo of 19,000 cows. Residents soon began complaining of a nauseating stench emanating from it. The NSPCA assessed the cattle on board the livestock vessel and described conditions as abhorrent, including an extreme buildup of feces and urine. In a statement on Tuesday, the animal welfare organization, the National Council of Societies for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, said the cows had been on the ship for more than 2 weeks, with many animals having no option but to rest in dams of their own excrement. The NSPCA said it had discovered diseased and injured cattle during inspections between Sunday and Tuesday. 8 had to be euthanized due to their injuries, while others were found dead on board. This incident serves as a stark reminder that the live export of animals by sea is a gruesome and outdated practice that inflicts unnecessary suffering on the sentient beings. The statement said the NSPCA repeated its call for a total ban on live cattle transport via sea once and for all. The crew of a Belize-flagged British registered cargo vessel have abandoned ship off Yemen after it was hit by missiles fired by the Houthi movement. The Ruby Ma was in the Gulf of Aden near the Bab al-Mandab Strait when it was hit and the crew abandoned ship. On Monday, the Houthi claimed the vessel had sunk, but on Tuesday, maritime security firm Ambre and the UK Royal Navy told press they have not seen any evidence of this. The strikes on the Ruby Ma are among the most damaging attacks so far by the Iran-backed Houthis. They have launched dozens of missiles and drones at merchant vessels and Western warships since mid-November. The Houthis say their attacks are a show of support for the Palestinians in the war between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. On Monday, a Houthi spokesman claimed the vessel suffered catastrophic damage and had sunk, a claim which has now been refuted. The UK government said the Ruby Ma was taken on water and had been abandoned and the crew taken to safety. It condemned the attacks as completely unacceptable and said the UK and its allies reserve the right to respond appropriately. The Houthi movement spokesman also claimed its forces had attacked 2 US-owned cargo vessels, the Sea Champion and the Navy's Fortuna in the Gulf of Aden. He added that Houthi air defenses in the Red Sea province of Hudaydah had shot down a US MQ-9 Reaper unmanned aerial vehicle while it was carrying out hostile missions against our country on behalf of Israel. There was no immediate comment from the US military. The Houthis' attack have prompted many shipping companies to stop using the critical waterway, which accounts for about 12% of the global seaborne trade. US and British forces began carrying out airstrikes on military targets across Houthi-controlled western Yemen in response last month. Protesting Indian farmers are resuming their march on capital Delhi in Pakistan have reached a formal agreement to form a new government following an election mired in controversy. The Pakistan Muslim League, Nawaz, will be backed by the Pakistan People's Party in a new administration, they jointly announced. Both parties won fewer seats than candidates loyal to jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. On X, Mr. Khan's PTI party branded the coalition mandate thieves. His movement alleged the vote was rigged to keep his supporters out of power. More than 6 days after reaching an initial deal to form a coalition, the PMLN and PPP announced a full agreement had been concluded at a press conference on Tuesday. Bilawal Bhutto Zadaro, chairman of the PPP, said the coalition's aim is to address the country's economic crisis. Former Prime Minister and President of PMLN, UN Shehbaz Sharif pledged collective action to tackle economic and other challenges. The agreement means Mr. Sharif is on course to become Prime Minister for a second time with the backing of the junior coalition partner, while Asif Ali Zardari of the PPP will be the coalition's candidate to become president, an office he has previously held. China has sharply criticized the U.S. for vetoing a UN Security Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Beijing said the move sent the wrong message and effectively gave a green light to the continued slaughter. The White House said the Algerian proposed resolution will jeopardize talks to end the war. The U.S. has proposed its own temporary ceasefire resolution, which also warned Israel not to invade the city of Rafah. There has been widespread condemnation of the U.S. decision to block Algeria's resolution as fighting continued in Gaza. It was backed by 13 of the 15 members of the UN Security Council, with the UK abstaining. In response to the veto, China's UN ambassador Zhang Jin said the motion would interfere with ongoing diplomatic negotiations was totally untenable. Given the situation on the ground, the continued passive avoidance on an immediate ceasefire is nothing different from giving a green light to the continued slaughter, he said. The spillover of the conflict is destabilizing the entire Middle East region, leading to a rising risk of a wider war, he added. Only by extinguishing the flames of war in Gaza can we prevent the fires of hell from engulfing the entire region. Algeria's top UN diplomat declared that unfortunately the Security Council failed once again. Examine your conscience, how will history judge you? Amar Benjama added. U.S. allies were also critical of the move. France's UN envoy Nicolas de Rovere expressed regret that the resolution had not been adopted, given the disastrous situation on the ground. Linda Thomas-Greenfield, Washington's ambassador to the UN, said it was not the right time to call for an immediate ceasefire, while negotiations between Hamas and Israel were continuing. A China-born Australian democracy blogger will not appeal his suspended death sentence imposed by a Beijing court, with his family saying Wednesday is a legal challenge would be detrimental to his welfare. Yang Hengjun was found guilty of espionage following a closed trial and sentenced 2 weeks ago to death with a 2-year reprieve. Such sentences are often commuted to life in prison after the 2 years. A statement from Yang's family and close friends said they strongly supported the 58-year-old's decision to waive his right to appeal. There are 2 practical reasons why an appeal would be detrimental to Yang's welfare, the statement said. First, there were no grounds to believe the judicial system would remedy his unjust sentence, it said, and second, an appeal would only delay the possibility of Yang receiving adequate medical care after 5 years of inhumane treatment and neglect in custody, the statement added. Yang supporters urge Australia to pressure China to release him from prison on medical parole or to transfer him to Australia. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Australia objected to the sentence handed to Yang and would continue to call for his release. We will continue to make representations to China in his interest. The Australian government will always stand up for the rights of Australian citizens, Albanese told press. In Beijing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said that the courts handled the case in accordance with the law and will continue to protect all the legitimate rights and interests of the person involved. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong said her government respected the difficult decision Yang had made to waive his appeal rights and would continue to advocate for him at every opportunity and at the highest levels. I acknowledge the strength that Dr. Yang's family and friends have demonstrated through this period, Wong said. All Australians want to see Dr. Yang reunited with his loved ones, Wong added. South Korea on Wednesday officially ordered thousands of striking doctors to return to work immediately, a step that could lead to legal punishments if the doctors were at hospitals. About 7,800 medical interns and residents in South Korea have walked out of their jobs this week to protest the government's push to recruit more medical students. Officials say they want to increase the nationwide medical school admissions cap by 2,000 from the next year to brace for South Korea's rapidly aging population. But doctors' groups have refuted the plan, saying universities aren't ready to offer quality education to that many students. They also say the government's plan would lead to increased public medical expenses since it lacks measures for how to raise low medical fees in some professions. The 2,000 additional admission is a nonsensical figure, the Korean intern residents Association said in a statement Tuesday, "We hope the government will rethink its plan and formulate a policy that reflects the voices of trainee doctors. Junior doctors typically support senior doctors during surgeries and treat patients in hospitals. Their joint workouts have burdened hospital operations." The health ministry said Wednesday that authorities have received 58 public complaints over the workouts, mostly regarding indefinite delays of surgery and cancellation of other medical treatments. The government on Wednesday accused the trainee doctors of putting their rights before the lives of patients. The fundamental responsibility of medical personnel is caring for the lives, justified, Vice Health Minister Park Min-soo told reporters. Japan's industry minister summoned the president of the utility that runs the Fukushima nuclear power plant to his office Wednesday and cheated him for a radioactive water leak at the plant earlier this month. Mishaps related to the massive amount of contaminated water at the tsunami-damaged Fukushima Daiichi plant are especially sensitive, while the government tries to get support for discharging treated wastewater into the sea, a process that will take decades and has worried people inside and outside Japan. Industry Minister Ken Saito called for heightened safety awareness and preventive measures and urged company president Tomoko Kobayakawa to take it seriously as a management issue. The move followed a series of mishaps led by human errors at the plant, where 3 nuclear reactors melted down after the massive 2011 earthquake and tsunami. Most recently, 1.5 metric ton of highly radioactive water escaped in early February during valve checks at a SARI treatment machine designed to remove cesium and strontium from the contaminated water, according to the plant operator Tokyo Electric Power Company Holdings, or TEPCO. The leakage has been downgraded from an initial estimate of 5.5 tons. No one was injured and the spill did not escape the plant compound. Saito called on TEPCO to fully examine the mishaps to find whether they may have common causes, while consider using digital technology as a way of preventing human errors. The mishap would trigger unease in the local community, as well as many others in and outside Japan, about the safety of the ongoing decommissioning carried out by TEPCO, the minister said. In the February incident, workers left several air valves open while they flushed the machine with filtered water, a process intended to reduce radiation levels before the maintenance work. The valves should have been closed, but the workers started the flushing without checking. The leaked water was 10 times more radioactive than the legally releasable limit, according to TEPCO. In another accidental leak in October, 4 workers were sprayed with radioactive liquid waste while cleaning a treatment facility. 2 were briefly hospitalized for skin contamination, though none showed symptoms of poisoning. Kobayakawa apologized to the minister over the mishaps, which he said should not have happened from safety perspectives, and as president, I take it very seriously. After the meeting with the minister, Kobayakawa told reporters that he plans to study ways to effectively prevent human errors while seeking advice from outside experts. The filtering machine involved in the mishaps are part of TEPCO's treated controversial wastewater discharges. The project has been strongly opposed by fishing groups and neighboring countries, including China, which ban imports of all Japanese seafood. The Japanese government has struggled to ease concerns in and outside the country, while hoping the International Atomic Energy Agency's assistance and reviews affirming the discharges have met international safety standards would help win credibility. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Moscow is categorically against the deployment of nuclear weapons in space. His remarks came during a televised meeting with his defense minister, who also denied Russia had any such plans. Last week, U.S. officials said Russia was developing a troubling new anti-satellite weapon, which was yet to deploy. U.S. media reports said it was space-based and armed with a nuclear warhead. White House spokesman John Kirby said the U.S. administration was taking the development very seriously and that President Joe Biden had already ordered direct diplomatic engagement with Russia over the threat. Mr. Putin called for international agreements on space weaponry to be adhered to and said Russia had offered many times to work jointly to strengthen them. Our position is clear and transparent. We have always been categorically against the deployment of nuclear weapons in space, and we are still against it, he said. A woman with a U.S.-Russian citizenship has been detained in Russia on suspicion of treason and fundraising for Ukraine's army. She has been named in the U.S. media as Ksenia Kralina, 33. From Los Angeles, Russia's Federal Security Service earlier said an unnamed woman has been arrested over raising funds for a Ukrainian organization whose ultimate beneficiary was Kyiv's armed forces. She was also accused of attending pro-Ukraine rallies in the U.S. Ms. Karolina was detained by Russian authorities in Yekaterinburg, a city in the southern Ural Mountains. Correspondent reports that her identity was confirmed to them by officials who said she had arrived in Russia at the beginning of January. The U.S. government learned of Ms. Karolina's arrest earlier this month, the U.S. network also said. She is reported to have obtained U.S. citizenship in 2021 and worked at a spa in Los Angeles, as well as dancing as an amateur ballerina. According to a media report, Ms. Karolina traveled home to see her family. The newspaper spoke to her former mother-in-law, who expressed concerns that Ms. Karolina faced up to life behind bars and being mistreated in Russian prison. I don't have hope for Russian justice. It does not exist. But here we live in a powerful country and we can make noise and attract attention, Eleonora Sirosky said. The FSB, who did not name Ms. Karolina in their statement announcing the arrest, said the detained woman had been collecting money for the Ukrainian military since February 2022, when Russia's first launched its full-scale invasion of the country. It said the funds had subsequently been used to purchase medical supplies, equipment, weapons and ammunition for the Ukrainian army. No detail or evidence were provided. A vote in Hungary's parliament of ratifying Sweden's bid to join NATO could come as early as Monday, according to a senior member of the country's governing Fidesz party. It would bring an end to more than 18 months of delays by the nationalist government that have frustrated Hungary's allies. In a letter on Tuesday to the Speaker of Parliament, the head of Fidesz caucus, Máté Kostis, requested that a vote be scheduled for the opening day of the spring session, which begins on Monday. Kostis wrote that Fidesz, which has repeatedly blocked a vote on the matter, will opt to support Sweden's bid to join the transatlantic military alliance. Hungary is the only one of NATO's 31 existing members not to have ratified Sweden's bid. The Hungarian government faces mounting pressure to act after delaying the move for more than 1.5 years, since admitting a new country to the military alliance requires unanimous approval. On Sunday, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators visited Hungary and announced they would submit a joint resolution to Congress condemning alleged democratic backsliding in the country and urging Prime Minister Viktor Orban to move forward and approving Sweden's accession as soon as possible. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, said in Budapest on Sunday that members of the Hungarian government and Fidesz had refused to meet with the delegation, something he called strange and concerning, but said that the onus was on the long-serving leader to push for a vote. We are wise enough about politics here to know that if Prime Minister Orban wants this to happen, then Parliament must move forward, he said. Orban has faced isolation over his obstruction of key decisions by his international allies, including putting up roadblocks to EU funding for cash-strapped Ukraine. The husband of an American missing in Spain under suspicious circumstances played no part in her disappearance and disputes her family's contentions that their impending divorce was nasty, his attorney said Tuesday. David Nezewich was in his native Serbia when his wife Anna disappeared from her Madrid apartment on February 2nd and has been cooperating with both Spanish police and the FBI, said Ken Padowitz, his Florida-based attorney. Anna Nezevich, a 40-year-old naturalized American originally from Colombia, vanished shortly after a man wearing a motorcycle helmet disabled her apartment's complex security cameras by spray painting the lenses. Two of her friends received text messages from her phone the next day saying she was running off for a few days with a man she had just met. They said the messages were not written in her style and she would never leave with a stranger. David has worked with authorities. He has talked to detectives in Spain on a number of occasions. He has provided credit card information. He obtained a lawyer in Spain to sign documents that might help the Spanish authorities go into the apartment that his wife had rented, Padowitz said. He is doing everything that he possibly can from Serbia. He said if Nezevich, 36, traveled to Spain, that would not help the investigation or search. He does not speak Spanish. He does not have family in Spain. He does not have friends in Spain. He does not have a house or an apartment or any place to live in Spain, Padowitz said. Sana Romeo, a friend of Anna, said Tuesday that David Nezevich told both her and Anna's brother that on February 2nd he was at the couple's Fort Lauderdale home and not in Serbia. Whatever he did can obviously be confirmed by authorities, Romeo said. Madrid police on Tuesday said the investigation is ongoing but did not release further details. David and Anna Nezevich, who sometimes spell their surname as Nezevic, have been married for 13 years. They own EOX Technology Solutions Inc., which does computer support for South Florida businesses. Records show they also own a home and 2 other Fort Lauderdale properties, on one of those currently under foreclosure. Anna's brother, Juan Henio, called a divorce nasty in an interview with a Fort Lauderdale detective, a report shows. He told police that David was angry that they would be dividing a substantial amount of money. But Padois said the couple's split had been amicable and that they had even talked of hiring just one attorney to finalize their divorce and divide their properties and other assets. That they were having a nasty divorce, that's just blatantly false, Padois said. Romeo said Anna never told her the divorce was amicable, but I also did not take part in all their conversations. You are watching the international news on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing. Honorable, you human
So no agreement with the EU, but
from the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what they blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Welcome back. This is the international news on Atlantic Television Network. Now the rest of our stories. 2 men have been charged with murder for last week's deadly shooting at the Super Bowl victory parade in Kansas City. A woman died and 22 others were injured during the shooting, which police said stemmed from the 2 men arguing. The charged men, identified as Dominic Miller and Lindell Mays, were both shot and wounded during the incident. 2 teenagers were charged with resisting arrest and gun violations last week. Prosecutor Jane Peters Baker of Jackson County said at a press conference on Tuesday that the 2 men had been charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon. Mr. Mays was the one who got into an argument at the event and drew a handgun, Ms. Peter Baker alleged. On the other people then drew guns during the incident, officials said. That included Mr. Miller, who prosecutors believe is the one who shot and killed Lisa Lopez Galvin, 43, during the incident. Both men are being held on a $1 million bond. The 2 were initially taken to a hospital to be treated for their injuries after the shooting. They remain in hospital where they are recovering. Ms. Lopez Galvin's family said in a statement that they were thankful for the arrest of the 2 suspects. Though it does not bring back our beloved Lisa, it is comforting to know that the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office and the KCPD made it a top priority to seek justice for Lisa, the other shooting victims, those who had to witness this tragedy unfold the Kansas City community, the statement said. Uta, mother whose harsh parenting advice made her a YouTube influencer, has been sentenced to at least 4 years in prison for child abuse. Ruby Franke, 42, tearfully apologized in court as she learned her fate. She previously pleaded guilty to starving and abusing her children. She appeared along with her former business partner, Jody Hildebrandt, 54, who received an identical sentence. The judge sentenced them to serve 4 terms, of 1 to 15 years each. The sentences will run consecutively and are the maximum for each count under Utah law. How much time each will ultimately serve will be determined by the state's parole board. Frank will have 30 days to appeal the decision. In court, Utah prosecutor Eric Clark said that 2 of Frank's children, aged 9 and 11 at the time, lived in a concentration camp-like setting and called her a significant threat to the community. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment, Mr. Clark said. In court, Frank was in tears following the sentence. She apologized to her children and said, "I was so disoriented that I believed dark was light and right was wrong. I was led to believe that this world was an evil place filled with cops who control hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie, and lost husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abuse," she said. The 2 women were arrested in August 2023 after Frank's malnourished 12-year-old son climbed out of a window at Hildebrandt's house in Evans, Utah. Police said the children then ran to a neighbor's house and asked for food and water. He had lacerations from being tied up with rope, according to police records. Police have found the body of an 11-year-old Texas girl who went missing last week and are poised to file a murder charge against a family friend. Police in Paul County said Audrey Cunningham's body had been recovered by divers in the rivers north of Houston. She vanished after failing to get on her school bus on 15 February. A suspect in the case, 42-year-old Don Stephen McDougall, who sometimes took Audrey to school, is already in custody on an unrelated assault charge. Authorities are currently preparing an arrest warrant for Mr. McDougall for capital murder in Miss Cunningham's death, Polk County District Attorney Shirley Sitton said at a news conference on Tuesday. According to police, Mr. McDougall was a friend of Audrey's family and lived in a mobile home on their property near Lake Livingston, about 80 miles north of Houston. Audrey's body was discovered by police on Tuesday in the nearby Trinity River, about 10 miles from a family home. A backpack believed to be hers was traced in the area on Friday. She was last seen carrying a red Hello Kitty-style backpack. Authorities in Polk County said that Audrey was supposed to catch a school bus at a stop in the area on 15 February, but was never picked up. She did not appear in school that day. Mr. McDougall, who sometimes took Audrey to the bus stop or would take her to school if she missed the bus, was held in custody on 16 February on an unrelated aggravated assault charge. He reportedly joined the search efforts after Audrey went missing. Sheriff Brian Lyons told newsmen. Some of the witnesses have even said that he was in the community and knocking on doors, asking if they have seen her. He was first considered a person of interest in the case after a witness tied his vehicle, a dark blue 2003 Chevrolet Suburban to Audrey's disappearance. According to the Associated Press news agency, Mr. McDougall pleaded no contest to 2 felony counts of enticing a child stemming from a 2007 incident near Houston and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Police have not yet revealed how Ms. Cunningham died. Her remains are being examined by the Harris County Medical Examiner. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov reaffirmed Tuesday his government's support for the administration of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, expressing commitment to strategic cooperation in numerous sectors, including technology, energy and culture, during an hours-long visit to the South American country. Lavrov's meetings with Vice President Delcy Rodriguez and Foreign Minister Ivan Gil in the capital Caracas took place as Venezuela's government and a U.S.-backed faction of the opposition continue to negotiate conditions to level the playing field ahead of this year's presidential election. During the difficult negotiation process, which started in 2021 and has been guided by Norwegian diplomats, Russia has completely backed the Venezuelan government. Unconditional Russian and Chinese support has allowed Venezuela to circumvent crippling economic sanctions imposed primarily by the U.S., Lavrov told reporters. Russia's support of Maduro's representatives in the negotiations remains in force. His second visit to Caracas in less than a year, which came after a stop at Cuba, was part of a 3-country tour of Latin America. His next and final stop is Brazil, where he will participate in a meeting of the group of 20 foreign ministers. Gil said ongoing discussions with Russia include increasing the number of flights between both countries, which are operated by Venezuela's state-owned airlines, as well as opening an insulin production plant equipped with Russian technology. Venezuela and Russia are 2 countries that are victims on the international stage of the illegal, irrational, illegitimate application of unilateral coercive measures, Gil said, referring to economic sanctions. However, he said both countries have woven a close relationship, a functional, structural relationship that allows us today to show concrete results to our people. The death of Nobel laureate Pablo Neruda, days after Chile's 1973 military coup, should be reinvestigated, an appeals court ruled Tuesday, saying new steps could help clarify what killed the poet. Last December, a judge rejected a request by Neruda's nephew to reopen the case to look for causes other than cancer, which was listed on his death certificate. The nephew, Rodolfo Reyes, said forensic experts from Canada, Denmark and Chile had found evidence pointing to Neruda being poisoned. Reyes said forensic tests carried out in Danish and Canadian labs indicated Neruda's body had a great quantity of chlorodystrium botulinum, which is incompatible with human life. The toxin can cause nervous system paralysis and death. The ruling was the latest turn in one of the greatest debates of post-coup Chile. The long-stated official position has been that Neruda died of complications from prostate cancer, but his driver argued for decades that he was poisoned. In December, a judge ruled that the forensic results had already been carried out or were late and didn't lead anywhere. Several years earlier, other international forensic experts had already rejected the official cause of death as cachexia, or weakness and wasting of the body due to chronic illness, in his case, cancer, but at the time they had not determined what killed Neruda. On Tuesday, the appeals court in Santiago unanimously revoked the judge's resolution and ordered that the procedures requested by the nephew be done. These steps include a calligraphic analysis of the death certificate, a meta-analysis of the test results carried out by foreign agencies, and subpoenas for statements from Chile's documentation project and an expert on Clostridium botulinum. A judge in Haiti responsible for investigating the July 2021 assassination of President Jovenel Moïse has indicted his widow, Martine Moïse, ex-Prime Minister Claude Joseph, and the former Chief of Haiti's National Police, Leon Charles, among others, according to a report obtained Monday. The indictments are expected to further destabilize Haiti as it struggles with a surge in gang violence and recovers from a spate of violent protests demanding the resignation of current Prime Minister Ariel Henry. Dozens of suspects were indicted in the 122-page report issued by Walter Westervoltier, who is the 5th judge to lead the investigation after previous ones stepped down for various reasons, including fear of being killed. Charles, who was police chief when Moïse was killed, and now serves as Haiti's permanent representative to the Organization of the American States, faces the most serious charges. murder, attempted murder, possession and illegal carrying of weapons, conspiracy against the internal security of the state, and criminal association. Meanwhile, Joseph and Martin Moisey, who was injured in the attack, are accused of complicity and criminal association. Charles could not be immediately reached for comment, and Martin Moisey's attorney did not return a message for comment. Meanwhile, Joseph, the former Prime Minister, shared a statement with the Associated Press accusing Henry of undermining the investigation and benefiting from the President's death. Henry is weaponizing the Haitian justice system, prosecuting political opponents like me. It is a classic coup d'etat, Joseph said. They failed to kill me and Martin Moisey on July 7, 2021. Now they are using the Haitian justice system to advance their Machiavellian agenda. A taekwondo instructor killed a 7-year-old student at his academy and the boy's parents before going to a Sydney hospital with stab and slash wounds on his body, police said Wednesday. Kwang Kyung-yu, owner of the Lions Taekwondo and Martial Arts Academy and known to his students as Master Lion, will eventually be charged with 3 counts of murder, homicide. Detective Superintendent Daniel Doherty said. The crimes were discovered after the instructor admitted himself to a hospital on Monday night suffering stab wounds or slash wounds to his chest, stomach and arms, Doherty said. He said the man told police he had been attacked in a supermarket car park. Police allege Yu killed Min Cho, 41, and her son at his academy after a class on Monday before driving to their home, where he killed Cho's husband and the boy's father, Stephen Cho, 39. Police did not officially release the victims' names, but the adults were identified in media reports. Police discovered the bodies Tuesday and arrested Yu at the hospital. Police have yet to reveal a motive. They knew all 4 were born in South Korea, and the slain boy had been a regular taekwondo student. We're still establishing what other connections or what other relationships may have been or may not have been, Doherty said. Unnamed police sources told media the mother and son were strangled. The father was stabbed to death. The police have yet to determine how Yu's injuries were inflicted. It is not only tragic in the circumstances, but consequences were cataclysmic. We've just lost 3 people from one family who've had their lives taken away, Doherty added. Yu drove the woman's BMW sedan from the academy to the family home and then to the Sydney hospital, the media reported. He underwent surgery for his wounds and understood that he was under arrest, Doherty said. There was no warnings from what we have gathered so far. It was out of the blue. It wasn't something that was forewarned or planned, Doherty said. The maximum penalty for someone convicted of murder in New South Wales state is life imprisonment with a standard non-parole period of 20 years and for the murder of an adult and 25 years for the murder of a child. And that's the international news for today. Before we go, another look at the major stories. South Africa, cattle ship causing foul smell departs for Iraq. Yemen, crew abandons British registered ship after missile attack by Houthis. India, protesting farmers resumes march on capital after talks failed. Russia, women with US Russian citizenship detained for alleged treason. United States, 2 men charged with murder for shooting at Kansas City. Australia, police say taekwondo instructor kills 7-year-old student. I am Valentina Lawrence. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on all our social media platforms: X, Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram, Atlantic TV Network, or you can watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you. Have a lovely afternoon.